aviation safety standards. And I would also just say there's a cultural piece to this as well. If you are an American who has spent many years studying aviation and you graduate from school and you're an air traffic controller based on skill and merit, and then you apply for a job and you're forced to fill out a biographical questionnaire asking you the color of your skin and asking you where you're from in details that aren't relevant at all to the job description, I think that deteriorates the morale of people in this industry.
She was fired for not complying with her school district's so-called transgender policies. Now she's on cloud nine. Chris Woodward explains.
Jessica Tapia lost her job at California's Jurupa Unified School District. Tapia's former attorneys at Advocates for Faith and Freedom say the school wanted her to, quote, lie to parents about their child's gender identity, refer to students by their preferred pronouns, and allow males into female locker rooms. Tapia could not do that based on her religious beliefs, and the termination resulted in a $360,000 settlement last year. But Tapia tells Fox News that was nothing compared to last week when President Trump signed an executive order targeting gender ideology in K-12 schools. Attorney Julianne Fleischer of Advocates for Faith and Freedom.
This is really an about-face and is really I think she had said the moment is surreal because she was fired for exactly the reason that this executive order was put into place by President Trump. Just by virtue of being a government teacher or being a student on government property doesn't mean that you give up or surrender your rights.
I'm Chris Woodward.
More U.S. troops are now arriving in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where they will staff the facility used to house captured illegal aliens with criminal records.
More than 150 U.S. soldiers and Marines have now landed at the U.S. Navy's station at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, joining the service members already stationed there. They'll be guarding the illegal aliens captured by U.S. immigration enforcement. These are expected to be illegal migrants who also committed violent and other crimes. They'll be held at Gitmo until they can be flown back to their country of origin. Homeland Security officials expect to begin housing the migrants there by the end of the month. In Broward County, Florida, Eben Brown, Fox News.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio delivering remarks to reporters in Panama about illegal immigration before boarding a plane to El Salvador today.
This is an effective way to stem the flow of illegal migration, of mass migration, which is destructive and destabilizing. And it would have been impossible to do without the strong partnership we have here with our friends and allies in Panama, and we're going to continue to do it, and we're grateful for it.
More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
What we believe about the Bible is based on what we believe about its source.
The God Who Speaks, the award-winning documentary from the American Family Association, is now available in a special limited edition DVD set. This release includes a Sunday school curriculum and 2 hours of additional footage. Go to thegodwhospeaks.org to get your copy today. thegodwhospeaks.org. Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Monday, February the 3rd, 2025. Again, you are listening to American Family Radio. Tim Wildman here with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
And Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
And it's just the three of us this morning on the program. We don't have any guests lined up, I guess, do we? So it's just going to be us waxing eloquent.
Oh, yeah. I love waxing. Eloquent.
Eloquently.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, Ed. Kind of rock on. What was that song?
Rock on, yeah.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
Carpenters.
And I don't think that was Carpenters,
Chris.
But it was 70s. It was 70s roller rink music.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I'm trying to remember who sang that. I'm surprised you don't know.
Hey, rock
all right,
on.
Brent Creeley's going to look it up. I'm not sure. It may be close. The title may be close to some other songs Brent's looking it up. Not that it's important. We have the whole
I
world
think
being
this
hit
is
with
urgent.
tariffs.
I think this is urgent news. All right. So anyway, thanks for listening to American Family Radio. You got the answer to our music trivia question?
Looks like David Essex.
David Essex, a one-hit wonder.
That's it.
Rock on. Anyway, I remember that. All right, so a lot to talk about today, and we're going to get to it. Let me just first say before we get to the news of the day, thus the name of this show, Today's Issues. We're going to cover today's issues. We have 2 new radio stations on the air. We've mentioned this before. We would like to tell people multiple days because maybe they have fans, family and friends who live in the area that I'm about to mention who want to know about our new radio stations, American Family radio stations. We don't buy stations as often as we used to because it's very expensive to do so. So we're very careful about where we buy radio stations. And we just went on the air last week with Birmingham, Alabama. And it's really the downtown south of Birmingham toward all the way almost down to Prattville, the radio station.
Okay.
Jemison, Alabama is where the tower is. But anyway, we go all the way to I was in Birmingham a couple days ago and I was scanning downtown.
And you could pick it up?
I could pick it up. So it's got a strong signal there, and the signal is 97.7. So again, new station for us on the air at 97.7. Said it covered like 650,000 people.
Yeah, it's a
big
This
station.
is a good get, if I can put it in those words, for American Family Radio. Now, sometimes people will say, well, how come you don't have a station in such and such a place? Well, first of all, it's expensive to buy radio stations, but also you can't just say, hey, we want to pick one up in this particular, because the number of places where you can have a radio station on the dial, what we used to say, is limited.
Right.
And you can't overlap somebody else's signal. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
So you can't
Then the tariffs get involved.
Oh, your tariffs.
You got your Russians get involved. It's a mess.
Well, I have to say, I know you got one more.
I got one
here. Speaking of tariffs, my wife ate the last of a sandwich over the weekend. I was kind of looking forward to it when I was watching the hockey game. So I had to hit her with a tariff. I had to hit her with a tariff. She wanted to get some shoes, and I said, well, I'm adding a 25% tariff. I'm sorry.
I did that.
Yeah.
We ordered a Canadian bacon pizza.
There.
And I said, hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute. If you think you're going to give me this Canadian bacon without me issuing a tariff on that, you got another thing coming.
That's right.
You know
I'm eating American bacon.
American
on
bacon
my pizza.
In the Gulf of America.
Right there on the Gulf.
All right, so anyway, 97.7 in Birmingham, the greater Birmingham area, and then also Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We just went on the air there with 88.5, which so the signals almost overlap between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. It's only like 45 minutes between the two cities. Anyway, 88.5 in Tuscaloosa and 97.7 in Birmingham. Those are our 2 new American Family radio stations. Let's welcome those people.
I used to live south of Birmingham.
Did you? Where'd you live?
I lived in Shelby County, which is like the Hoover area, south, Calera, Alabaster. Actually, there is a really nice Bass Pro Shops in the Prattville area. So as you're making your way down there to look at fishing rods, you can listen to us on I-65.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, Chris, what's your first story?
Well, as you've already mentioned here with the tariffs, President Donald Trump is defending his tariffs policy against countries such as Canada, Mexico, and China.
What did he do exactly, for those who haven't heard?
Yes, he is slapping tariffs or taxes on goods made over there and brought over.
Slapping
them,
okay.
Yes. Now, tariffs are taxes. That's one of the critiques you'll hear from people that are against tariffs policies. Nonetheless, Trump seems to think that this is going to actually help Americans and American workers in the long run because it's going to bring these countries to the table and we're going to negotiate new, better trade policies. And he also says that we are going to open up new places for our workers and companies to do business. So he seems to think we're going to benefit from this, even though people on television today are talking about tariffs being a bad idea. And I do have some audio from the president defending his tariffs policy here. He's at a rope line making his way to one of his aircrafts, and he's talking to reporters here. Clip 1.
We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that. But long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. We have deficits with almost every country. Not every country, but almost. And we're going to change it. It's been unfair.
All right. Now, my understanding, neither Tim nor I are economic experts, even though it's hard to tell that when you hear us talk, when we speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But my understanding of the way tariffs work, and you do point out, Chris, that it's like a tax.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have goods coming to the U.S. from Mexico, for example,
right,
or Canada, and they may be able to make those cheaper
mm-hmm,
than U.S. companies, and people therefore buy the Canadian product
mm-hmm,
or the Mexican product, and they don't buy it from a U.S. manufacturer or a U.S. company, slapping a tariff on it, like I think 25% for Mexico and Canada
right,
each, that makes those products more expensive, and then people tend to buy the cheaper American product. And so when President Trump says that we have these trade deficits with all kinds of countries, I think he's at least threatening a 10% tariff on Chinese goods.
correct.
So that trade imbalance that we have is because Americans are buying goods made overseas in Europe or Canada, Mexico, China, and U.S. manufacturers suffer. Now, I know we're going to continue discussing here, and we will be hearing from people who are critical of this, but on Fox, I saw a story as soon as I came in here to the studio that the CEO of the largest steel producer in the U.S. endorsed the tariffs because he said that's good for companies that produce steel here.
Yes.
And the criticism of this trade imbalance between the United States and other countries is that it either hurts American companies or puts them out of business.
That's a good way.
And then we can't rely on U.S. manufacturing if there's a war or there is some sort of problem where we can't get goods into this country.
Right.
So people are saying we need to make these things here.
Yeah, pretty much the two groups of people that are in favor of or opposed to the tariffs are if you're kind of a buy American or we need to make more of our own stuff again, you're in favor of Trump's tariffs. If you are a quote-unquote globalist, you are against things like tariffs because, as they point out, it's going to make things more expensive for consumers here in school.
Well, because Canada and Mexico have said they're going to slap tariffs on American goods.
Right.
That we
Everybody's
sell.
slapping.
Oh, yeah. A lot of slapping.
It's a slap
going on.
It's like an episode of The Three Stooges.
Yeah, slapping.
And that's how much slapping's going on.
You don't issue a tariff, you slap it.
You slap it.
I just saw an article on Fox News website, and I think this just popped up. Somebody slapped it up there on the website.
Was I overdoing it with the slapping?
This is turning into a slapstick show.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what the article says on Fox News. I'll just read a couple of paragraphs here because this is like breaking news. Mexico has agreed to deploy 10,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexican border in exchange for a one-month delay on President Donald Trump's threatened tariffs. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds so funny. A Sheinbaum being president of Mexico? Huh?
Oh, that's an old-timey
Would you
Mexican
expect a
word.
Perez or somebody like that? Anyway, Sheinbaum made the announcement on social media Monday morning, roughly 12 hours before the tariffs were set to take effect. Trump and Sheinbaum spoke, again, that's the president of Mexico, spoke on Monday and agreed that Mexico will do more to combat drug trafficking into the U.S. and that the U.S. will step up efforts to block the flow of firearms into Mexico. So they're putting a one month pause on the tariffs by President Trump against Mexico. So I don't know what's going to happened subsequent to that, because it says Mexico has agreed to deploy 10,000 troops on the U.S. border. But it does sound like, at least initially, this is a win for President Trump, because he got Mexico to deploy 10,000 troops on the U.S. border they didn't have there.
Yeah, and that's been part of Trump's argument in favor of the tariffs, is that his point, his accusation, is that Mexico and Canada have done little to stop the flow of drugs and illegal immigrants into the United States from those countries. And I think that's the justification under some emergency powers that the president is using. And so for Mexico, I don't know how many troops are needed to shut down that border, but it does sound like initially here this is a win for President Trump.
Yes.
For at least for 30 days.
It would be kind of the second related win for him, because last month in mid to late January, we had that announcement from Colombia where they initially told the Trump administration, we're not taking these migrants that you're flying back home.
Right.
And then they backed down over things like tariffs.
And Panama, maybe we'll hold that story for later, but that is also, it looks like, a win, at least initially, for President Trump. He did not want China being so involved in the running of the Panama Canal or being adjacent to it. China has this Belt and Road Initiative where it comes into countries and spends Chinese money to build infrastructure in exchange for China being able to set up its own influences in that country. So this could be three relatively quick victories for President.
Greenland is now on the clock.
Greenland. All right, so real quick, also Canada. So we switched from Mexico. These were 25% tariffs, I guess, on all products coming into the United States that Canadian and Mexican companies were going to have to pay. Is that correct? Is that right?
Many, if not most. I don't think it was like everything. He did talk about something involving oil being, judged differently. I forget the exact term.
So anyway, the reaction in Mexico is to, for the president there in Mexico, is to put 10,000 troops on the border to deter illegal immigration from Mexico into the U.S. and also to fight the drug cartels and to bring in fentanyl and other drugs illegally into the United States, of which Mexico would respond, well, if you didn't have so many drug addicts in your country, we wouldn't have this problem.
That's what China is saying that's your problem. It's not ours. Even though I think the raw materials are coming from China into Mexico, where these drug cartels are, I don't know what the process is in quote unquote refining the drug, but
all right. So with regard to Canada, so I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday who's a Canadian who moved down here. It wasn't Fred, it was somebody else. Fred Jackson is a Canadian who moved to the U.S. many years ago.
Legally.
Yes, legally. But this other person I was talking to said, they're mad. Canadians are angry and upset with Trump and over the 25% tariff. But I don't know enough to I don't know what Trump's end game is here. I'm sure he has one, but I haven't heard it articulated, except maybe I have heard some people say that there is an unfair trade imbalance between the U.S. and Canada because they put tariffs on stuff we try to take in there, and it's an unfair.
On some products, you're not even allowed to sell them in Canada. Okay. And so
is that what he's upset about, Trump?
Yeah, and he is right. We do have a trade imbalance with most countries because of those countries have their own protectionist policies.
Right. Already
they're protecting their own companies, and President Trump is saying we're being played as suckers, and so we're going to start protecting companies in our country with tariffs. So listen, I freely admit I am not up on tariff political science
I've been
or
reading a
economic
lot.
policy?
I've been reading a lot, like the last 6 months.
You have?
Yeah, I was preparing for this moment.
Okay.
But we can, we got plenty of time to go over what I learned.
Right.
Go ahead, though.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, my initial reaction, I'm just being honest here, my initial reaction to Trump levying these tariffs, at first I thought he was just kind of bluffing, but I should have learned my lesson long ago. But when he issued these tariffs on Canada and Mexico, my initial reaction was, this is publicly humiliating for these countries. You should have done this behind the scenes. But on the other hand, I think President Trump is right to discuss these imbalances with these countries, and this may be the only way to let them know that he's serious. And I think that doing this publicly may turn out to be the best way of doing it.
What about making Canada our 51st state? Because Trump's still going on that one too.
Who's got the video, the audio?
Oh, I've got it right here.
Okay.
Now, what have we got audio of?
This is the hockey game?
Yeah, so for those not aware, the tariffs policy has made its way into the sports world, specifically the sports arena. And I mention that because fans of the Ottawa Senators, which is a Canadian NHL team.
Yes.
The Canadians there booed our national anthem when it was played.
Let me just kind of explain here that whenever a Canadian team and a U.S.-based team play each other, they sing both national anthems, whether it's in Canada or the United States. So this is a game in Ottawa. I don't even know who they were playing. But it was a U.S.-based team. And so when the singer started to sing the U.S. national anthem, right? Now you take over.
Yes. So, I mean, don't take our word for it. Here we go, clip 11.
8-year-old Kyra Daniel.
Now I've never, ever heard a Canadians at a hockey game boo the U.S. national anthem. I mentioned that several years ago, the girl, I think it was a young lady who was singing the national anthem, her mic went out, and the Canadians finished the U.S. national anthem as a sign of respect.
Right.
They sang it together, and because the girl's microphone had gone out. So I've never heard Canadians don't boo anybody.
No, they're very. I only know like two angry Canadians, Neil Young and Michael Moore.
Yeah, that's true. Those guys. So this was something. This has really irked Canadians because it is publicly humiliating. I'm just going to use it to get these tariffs slapped on you.
Right.
By the president of the United States.
They were playing the Minnesota Wild.
Minnesota Wild. All right.
Well, okay. President Trump, his personality sometimes can cause people to react in the way the Canadians just reacted to the thing. Not necessarily the content of his actions, but his taunting.
Yeah.
Okay, which he's good at. Trump, I've said this before, Trump likes to pull people's trousers down in public and then point at him and laugh.
Yeah.
And now if he's on your team, you love him.
Yes.
Go get those liberals.
Yeah, that's right.
Go get those socialists. But if he's not on your team, you're going like, this is absolutely disgusting behavior. Okay.
And I got to say, that's kind of New Yorkish. New York.
Yes,
City
that's New York, right?
Yeah.
So Trump, in this case, not only slaps. Here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. And we're not a violent show.
This is not. We're peace-loving.
This is metaphorically.
Yes.
Slaps are the like a hockey puck. It gets slapped.
Yes, slap shot.
He slaps Canada with a 25% tariff, I guess, on all products coming into the United States. Here's where he pulls Canada's britches down. He says, and we're going to make you our 51st state.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Even if you're in Canada, the economics of the situation is one thing.
Yeah.
But the public humiliation by Big Brother, so to speak, that is the
U.S., yeah.
The U.S. is the economy's, I don't know what it is, 20 times the size of Canada or something like that. So Canada may, in that respect, have a little bit of an inferiority complex.
Yeah.
And Trump says, yeah, you got an inferiority complex because you're inferior.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and even if you are, and even if everybody knows that, nobody likes to be humiliated.
Right.
In that way. So when they're booing that singer of the national anthem, they're booing the 25% tariff that Trump issued.
Yeah.
But they're also booing him saying things like, we're going to make them the 51st state. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. You're so small.
We'll swallow you up if we need to. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Huh?
And now, let me just say this, in terms of the liberal leadership of Canada, they've been very dismissive to the United States on a number of occasions.
Right.
So,
so Trump said two can play this game.
That's exactly right. So I'm now starting to think maybe Trump has done it this way to get some movement on the negotiations, and
is right.
He'll play play nice after he gets his deal.
That's the New York real estate tycoon tactics, and that's what Trump knows, and he uses this to his benefit, and I would say to the benefit of our country.
Yeah.
Even you may not like some of the things in the way he says it, but like I said, he's got an end goal.
Yeah.
And he
doesn't care if he's not liked, in a sense. I'm sure he doesn't.
Well, he's president now, and he
can't
run again.
Yeah.
So it's Trump unleashed.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? He really doesn't care now.
Right.
So he does and he doesn't. Trump does care some about how he's perceived, but as far as what he's going to do and how he's going to do it as president, he's not going to be encumbered by what the liberal media or the polls or anybody else
he's
says.
He's gonna do what he believes is best for our country.
That's right.
Period.
That's right. If it means taking over Greenland, then by golly, get ready, little fishermen, because we're bringing our Navy.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
For whoever would save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake, he will save it. James White, 44, thought his civilian job at McClellan Air Force Base was a waste of time and money, doing the opposite of what most folks would have done. Mr. White took pencil and paper in hand and began to write a suggestion for the suggestion box. He told the U.S. government that the abolishment of his position as an inventory management specialist was in the best interest of all concerned. Now, that's something the average fellow wouldn't do. The average fellow would try to hang on as long as possible, but then Mr. White wasn't an average fellow. The suggestion bounced through bureaucratic channels for several months until it finally reached the Air Force Logistics Command at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And along the way, no doubt caused many an eyebrow to be raised and perhaps caused many a chuckle to boot. At Wright-Patterson, someone appreciated his idea and agreed with him, so in a short time, White's job was scrapped. There was no longer an opening for an inventory management specialist. There's an old law which says that one has to lose himself to find himself. Mr. White's actions were an example of that law being put into practice. He considered the job an unnecessary burden on the taxpayers. He saw a better way of getting the job done, and he was willing to risk his source of livelihood for the betterment of his employer. He'd gotten self out of the way, and put a desire to do what was best above himself. All of us could benefit from such an example, for many of us have never lost ourselves. We think of ourselves as the number one player in this game of life, and our thoughts hardly ever go beyond ourselves. We would seldom think there would be a better way of doing what we're doing, and certainly would not suggest it if there were. We might lose what we're doing. One day, years ago now, a carpenter told some friends of his that if they would lose themselves, they could find themselves. In fact, he said one could never find his true self until he had lost himself. And he went on to say that the person who was continually looking out for old number one would inevitably lose what he did have. The principle is true not only in religion, but in the whole of life. When you're willing to lose, then you're ready to find. And I guess many of us are concerned about James White. We nearly always worry over those who lose themselves in service to others, but we shouldn't. It's true, White lost his job as inventory management specialist, but he got a check for $1,000 for his suggestion and was promoted to supervisor. He lost himself to find himself and a better job. You know, truth is truth in whatever area you find it.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, just returned from the presidential inauguration of President Trump and Vice President Vance. And let me tell you something, folks. There's an excitement in the air among millions and millions and millions of Americans who are ready for some common sense changes to come to our country. Guess what? We're going to Washington, D.C. again for our Spiritual Heritage Tour in June and September. We're over halfway full. If you want to go with us to see our nation's capital from a distinctively Christian heritage viewpoint, then you need to contact us. You need to go to wildmangroup.com, WILDMON group.com. We're also going to Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to Boston in October. For information on any of these tours, go to wildmangroup.com, WILDMON group.com.
In Him, we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of Him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of His will. Ephesians 1:11.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues. That's the name of this show. Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Ed and Chris, and we're here every Monday through Friday. Well, Monday through Thursday, we cover the news of the day, keep you informed on what's happening in our country. And then we also, on Fridays, we have fun with our Trivia Friday show. So look forward to that every Friday. You're, again, listening to Today's Issues. If you want to download the AFR app, if you travel and you run out of signal, you listen to American Family Radio on one of our radio towers, one of the radio stations on the FM dial. I don't know what to call it, but a dial.
Yeah.
But anyway, the FM, place there for radio, and you run out of, then you can just download the app and listen anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, really.
Anywhere you got a good signal.
You got high-speed internet, like on your phone or your iPad or whatever like that. Just listen. A lot of people listen on the app, the AFR app. People are doing that and more and more and more and more.
And they love it.
They love it.
They love the experience.
Go to the App Store on your smartphone, download AFR. Take about a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes at the most, and then you can click on there and listen to this network anywhere you go. And that's what people are doing, and that's been a game changer for us.
And for most vehicles, you Bluetooth or otherwise, maybe Apple Play or whatever, with your radio and your sound system in your car. and it just goes right to it. So
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
My wife Allison showed me that the other day. You know, that's been around.
She just now showed it to you?
Showed me the Bluetooth thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm catching on.
Yes,
How many years behind am I?
About 7, but that's all right.
My family bought me a speaker for Christmas to play music or whatever you want to do. Y'all wear these things?
Oh yeah,
wear them. Or aware of
them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have one
it's-
in my bathroom when I get ready.
Okay.
Yeah,
there you
Bluetooth
go.
speaker.
So you got an AFR, so you can listen AFR on that speaker or anything else you want to listen to. But I was and take that speaker anywhere you go to.
Yeah.
So and listen to, like you say, a Bluetooth.
Right.
Did you know that the Bluetooth
What, did I
name
say
actually
something wrong?
You said you listened to a Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Is that not what you how you say it?
It's we should probably just
via Bluetooth.
Via Bluetooth. That's the
okay.
one.
Via. I'll take
Did
via.
you know that was actually named after somebody?
Bluetooth?
It was, yes.
What's the story behind that, Chris?
Bluetooth is named after a 10th century Viking king named Harold Bluetooth Gormson. He had a tooth, some sort of dental problem, and the tooth was in his mouth and looked kind of blue. And this is widely documented, including even on the Bluetooth website.
That's very famous Viking raider.
You know that
leader.
He was,
that Bluetooth Viking you're talking
he
about?
may or may not have spent time in Greenland.
Well, I tell you what he did do. He slapped tariffs on
Yeah,
Ireland.
He sure did.
and you read about history.
Yes, absolutely.
You read about
and because they couldn't pay it, he invaded.
He invaded. Bluetooth.
So you might want to be listening up, Canada.
Yeah, Bluetooth didn't play. You know what I'm saying? Bluetooth, he slapped those tariffs on Ireland, and then he said,
Harold Bluetooth.
Irish said, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he,
Shot me, God, you bring it.
Well, we'll send our unicorn army over there after you. If you invade us, Mr. Viking man.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Next story. Hey, listen, switching to a more serious note. We do like to have a little fun on this show, if you haven't noticed. But I do want to switch to a more serious and somber note now, is because I want to talk about the what we know about the plane. We had 2 plane crashes.
Yes.
That made national news in the last week. Obviously, the one in Philadelphia is the latest one, with 3 or 4 days ago. Very tragic story there. It's a private jet, Learjet, that went down and killed 4 or 5 people.
Yes,
including a young lady who was a girl, really, who was in Philadelphia for life-saving treatment, and then I guess she was on her way home with her mom on this private jet to somewhere in Mexico, and the plane crashed. Did they know why that plane crashed, Chris?
It's still under investigation. I'm looking at a story today from New York Post. It says patient 11 and others ID'd in Philadelphia jet crash as investigators find black box buried 8 feet in the ground at the impact site. So we'll find out more probably by the end of the week in terms of what they think was a cause, or at least in a preliminary investigation.
You know, the most dangerous time for small aircraft, and maybe true for jetliners too, but is taking off and landing.
Mm-hmm. Landing is my least favorite part of the flight.
Yeah, but you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, you better stick this, man. We've been up here the whole time.
And if they don't,
I'll be with Jesus.
Right.
I just got a little humor out of you saying you tell the pilot you better stick.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah, or else
the landing,
or else. So I have been on. I remember one specific occasion where I'm about to describe this happened, which was jarring, and I'm trying to remember it. Maybe it happened twice in my lifetime, but I'm a veteran flyer. I fly jets probably 7 or 8 times a year. Okay.
You fly on them.
Yes, fly on them.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not a pilot. Yes, good point. And I've flown into Reagan Airport, 100 times or more over my lifetime. And it is very convenient to downtown Washington, D.C. and to Virginia. It's 10 minutes from the Capitol. Cab ride, 15 minutes. So it's very convenient. Mm-hmm. Talking about, but I remember about 2 years ago, Allison and I went to Miami, and we were landing at the Miami airport, got down to probably within, I don't know, 200 or 300 feet of the runway. And then the jet pulled up straight into the sky, straight up. Like, what do you call those things when you...
G-forces?
Almost like G-force. Our gums are going back in our face. It was now, they said that it was because of winds. Okay, high winds.
That kind of wind shear?
Yeah, like a wind shear.
Yeah.
But I couldn't help but think that it was because of a near miss of another aircraft. But I don't know. I'm just going on.
They're not going to tell you.
Huh?
They're not going to tell you.
I know. They're going, I'm sorry about that, people.
Yeah.
We just
wind shear.
We just barely missed our plane falling out of the sky.
Right. A collision with
But we'll be there in a few minutes. We're going to circle around the Everglades here.
And thank you for flying Delta.
Yeah.
Shout out to our gold members.
Don't say we don't give you a little excitement every once in a while. But anyway, what I'm saying is that was terrifying. It was like a jarring experience. You're like going, what just happened? Of course, at the time you didn't know. But I'm just, it's a wonder that we don't have more air traffic crashes and incidences than we do in America with all the flights. If you ever look at the FlightAware, the computer model of all the, and I don't even know if that includes private planes. That's just jets flying all over our country.
It's now my understanding is because it looks like how in the world do you land in an airport with all these flights? Now it is 3-dimensional.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I know.
It's 2-dimensional. So it is 3-dimensional in real life where you have, at 1,000 feet, 5,000 feet, and those planes on a screen look like they're stacked up on each other, but it's still a lot of flights.
Yeah. Now, am I the only one who has read about this story with the crash at Reagan Airport in Washington, which is the loss of life there was how many?
67, I think.
Wow.
And they still have 12 missing.
They're still out there this morning. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Just heartbreaking. Okay. When we all heard about this and saw that. But am I the only one who thought, what in the world is a helicopter doing training around a major airport, commercial airport, where planes, if you've ever been in Washington, D.C., or in Northern Virginia there, you hear the jets come over every 4 or 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. The roar. In fact, when we go to the Lincoln Memorial on our tour, Stephen McDowell, our speaker, our historian who goes with us on our tours, he has to stop talking for about 30 seconds.
Loud.
About every 4 minutes, 5 minutes, he has to stop talking because it's so loud from the jets coming over from Reagan, either coming into, most of the time it's leaving, but coming in or leaving, because they're flying right over the Potomac, which is where this crash took place. But I guess I'm just saying that I just find it hard to believe that we've got helicopter. Why don't they put the helicopters? Again, I'm speaking out of complete and total ignorance of the reasons why that may be the case, and maybe it's, but it just does that not strike y'all? You have helicopters that can get anywhere near the pathway of commercial liners landing and taking off at a major airport like that.
It seems weird.
It does, just because human error is going to result in tragedy. It's not human error is going to result in, okay, you're going to have to do a little more training because you didn't stick the landing. Mm-hmm. But the human error, which may be the explanation for the crash,
so. Yeah,
that is going to result in disaster. Now, my understanding also is that they're supposed to have different limits on how high the helicopter's supposed to go. So the argument in defense of the training is, We've got to have training over major metropolitan areas because that's what the military will have to fly those kinds of flights. But we don't let them go. They have a ceiling, and they're not supposed to be in the way of each other, helicopters and jetliners. The problem is, except for human error. And if that's what happened here, then you're going to have 67 deaths, maybe more. If that had been a jetliner with 200 aboard, now the numbers are up.
I mean, Marine Force One, the giant green helicopter that flies the president to like Joint Air Force Base Andrews or whatever it's called. I mean, like I thought of that when the president, he always gets taken off by helicopter whenever he leaves the White House. And that's just one of several things flying or up in the air. I know there's a no-fly zone, but still, there's planes everywhere.
Yeah.
It's got to be
hopefully
nerve-wracking.
we're going to find out more about this. There's also talk. I don't know if you were going to discuss this. We probably talked it out.
Let me just tell folks what they're listening to here again. You're listening to Today's Issues. This is the American Family Radio Network you're listening to. And we thank you for joining us for this program and for listening to AFR throughout the day, American Family Radio. Tim, Ed, and Chris. Chris, go ahead with I'm sorry, did I interrupt your question?
Yeah, it wasn't a question. I was just going to say that what we will be hearing during the investigation of the Reagan crash, there has been some talk, including from the president himself, that DEI policies entered into the hiring of people for who handle the flights, air traffic control, and maybe even in this military helicopter.
Yes.
But I don't want to. That was the president saying that may have something to do with it. But that is a discussion we're going to hear play out over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, the morning of, hours after the crash, President Trump came on. We were actually on the air, and he quickly said DEI was to blame. At least two news outlets on our TV here were quick to say that Trump, without evidence, blames DEI.
How did he have evidence?
Well, he went on to say that basically DEI was to blame, and over the course of various explanations after that moment, he went on to talk about how it was either the crew or staffing issues at the airport control tower in terms of having DEI policies.
Can I give you my opinion on this?
We don't know.
It's probably going to be against the opinion of the majority of our listeners.
Okay.
Because anytime you disagree with President Trump, you get the wrath. You get the wrath of a lot of people.
Right.
So I agree with President Trump in the sense that there's a time and place for bringing this up as a problem. This DEI, which he is doing a great job of opposing.
Yes.
Diversity,
equity, and inclusion.
Which basically means you hire people based on,
identity,
and not whether they're the most qualified for the job or not. That's basically what that is. And you do something like that in a job role like an air traffic controller, it could be disastrous. And I think that's what he was saying. I just don't think President Trump should bring that up the first thing right out of the chute, when they're dragging people out of the water and bodies everywhere. I just don't think you know what I'm. Do you understand?
No,
what I'm saying?
I agree. I think this week should have been the time to discuss that.
Yes.
And here's part of the problem. What Chris is saying, and I remember last week while we were on air, those, I guess it was MSNBC and CNN, saying without evidence, President Trump blames DEI. Well, it may very well turn out to be the case that DEI did have something to do with it, and President Trump knew that, but he didn't give that evidence when he made the statement. Because my question for MSNBC and CNN is, how do you know he doesn't have evidence? You don't know what the cause is. Maybe the President of the United States does. But when you're going to talk about DEI have something to do with the crash, that's when you need to present your evidence. You need to be able to say...
Don't do it the night over, the day after.
Absolutely.
Right.
And folks, I know, like Tim said, you don't want us criticizing the president, our job here at the radio station, just like MSNBC is a spokesperson for the Democratic Party, we're not a spokesperson for the Republican Party or the Trump administration.
Call them like you see them.
We got to call them like we see it. That's part of our job, is to tell the truth as we see it. Now, we can be wrong, but I agree. I think he should not. That was not the right time to bring it out. You wait maybe until this week. I've seen on X people talking about the woman pilot, the military pilot on the helicopter. You know, was she the one? Was she qualified to be flying that mission? Or is it a DEI consideration?
Well, yeah. Well, I do know that there has been for a few years now a lawsuit. Y'all see what I'm talking about?
I have posted this on Facebook.
Okay, go ahead and tell them what I'm talking about here.
Oh, okay. Let me click it up. All right, so it is a Newsweek article, and the headline is, Did FAA Reject Air Traffic Controllers Based on Race? Here is what we know. This is something involving an individual that has claimed that he was denied or discriminated against from being an airport traffic controller because he happens to be a white male, and the FAA, at the time he filed the lawsuit, was looking to hire minorities and people of color.
When would this have been?
This is under Obama.
Yes, this is about
like 2014, right? Yeah. So to President Trump's point, about DEI, there has been a lawsuit going on. Maybe it's still going on. Lawsuits.
I think it is.
They can last a century or more. A lot of lawsuits can.
They get delayed a lot.
So this lawsuit where this gentleman says, "Hey, I wasn't hired because I was a white male. I wasn't hired as an air traffic controller," and so I don't know why there's been no resolution to that case. But anyway, that's a class action lawsuit against the federal government, dating back to the Obama years, right?
Yeah.
So there has been an argument made publicly by some that they were denied, they were denied a job opportunity as a air traffic controller, despite having an excellent score on their
100%,
100%, because they were the FAA was placing identity politics over scores on tests or qualifications. That's the argument made, and that goes to the heart of what President Trump was talking about. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Next story, Chris.
Well, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are one of the many things people are criticizing Democrats for pushing in recent years, and it's gotten to the point where some Democrats have left the party over things like woke platforms. Here is one example of a guy named Gary Francione, if I said his name correctly. He's from the New Jersey area, and he was on Fox earlier today. And the reason he was on is because Democrats have just elected new leaders for the Democratic Party. For example, Minnesota resident Ken Martin was elected the new head of the Democratic Party. You've got David Hogg as vice chair. But they brought out former Dem Gary Francione to talk about how Democrats have messed up by pushing woke stuff. Clip 5.
I'm a liberal pluralist in the sense that I believe that, people ought to live and look and love how they wish. But I don't think that, that freedom extends to when you're harming others. And I think when you're going into women's toilets or being on their sports teams or getting into their, shower rooms or changing rooms or prisons or whatever, I think that's problematic. And I think, unfortunately, the Democratic Party has moved from being a party that was focused on class issues and on the disparity between rich and poor, and has gone into sort of this identity politics, and it just got too much. I was overwhelmed with the reaction, the Democratic reaction to that bill. I thought was just deplorable.
Yeah.
And
Who's that?
That's a guy named Gary Francione.
Say goodbye to your life.
And what show was that on?
It was on Fox and Friends. I'll share our link on our page.
I think we're going to look back at this area of this time of the last, I don't even want to say the last 10 years, really during the first Trump administration, when the Democrats started pushing this really, really hard, but especially during the Biden administration, that the transgender movement, I don't want to say will be the death of the LGBTQ movement, but it is going to result in its influence shrinking, maybe collapsing, because it's just a bridge too far. With this this Democrat.
We were just hearing a Democrat spokesperson.
Yeah,
basically.
He said, "I don't want men in women's bathrooms and changing areas, and on girls' teams."
Right.
And that's just a bridge too far for most Americans.
Okay.
And if the Democratic Party is going to continue to push that, and everybody's going to see transgender, that's what the T stands for, and LGBTQ, then the homosexual movement may see its influence wane.
Can I differentiate just a little bit between the two? I think that gay and lesbian. Now I don't know. The B is the bisexual.
Bisexual.
Is that in there? LGBT.
Yeah,
it is.
It is too. Listen, the gay and lesbian movement in this country has gotten everything they want. There's nothing more to conquer. All right.
Except they don't want churches preaching.
Yeah, but
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I would say most gay and lesbian people don't care about that. They just don't. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
You do have your hardcore activists who want to shut down Christianity.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I would say your gay and lesbian people just they're not interested in hating Christians. Okay, that's my opinion. All right. They disagree with us and they don't like us, and some of them call us haters.
Yeah.
But I'm making an analysis of where that movement is today. They basically got everything they want. All right. I'm talking about the gay and lesbian side of it.
Mhm.
All right. You got marriage. They're in the military. You got non-discrimination. They're included.
You have whole departments on college and university campuses.
They've got major Christian denominations which accept homosexuals as leaders now. So they got about everything they want the last 20 years. All right. Now you're pushing for something that people who would say I'm supportive of gay and lesbian rights, quote, I'll leave that sort of undefined, would also say boys playing girls' sports is completely and totally unfair, and we all know it. So, no, I'm not for that part of the trans movement.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to do, and I'm not for doing mutilation on children. If somebody wants to try to change their physical sex after they're an adult, then they can go for it. But not children. Not children, because the damage that can do to their bodies and to their psyche is tragic. We'll be back. We'll finish this after this break.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
You're aware of how important it is to stay engaged in America's culture war. One way American Family Association helps you to do that is through action alerts. Here's how it works. Once or twice a week, we'll email you about matters critical to America's families, and we'll offer ways to take action. Visit afa.net today and tap the Action Alert sign-up button.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, almost DP. China's influence on the Panama Canal may be decreasing after a meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Steve Harrigan in Panama City with the details.
After talks between U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Panamanian officials, there certainly has been movement from Panama on trying to reduce Chinese influence over the Panama Canal. The president of Panama said they will end participation in belts and roads. That's a Chinese initiative for investment in infrastructure. Also, the Panamanian president said the two ports owned by China on the Panama Canal are now under audit. Will that be enough to satisfy the Trump administration? Panama's president did hold firm, saying the canal was controlled by Panama and would continue to be controlled by Panama, and that he foresaw no military action by the U.S. in Panama. In Panama City, Steve Harrigan, Fox News.
President Trump says he has reached an agreement to postpone tariffs on Mexico. Peter Ducey has more from the White House.
President Trump himself confirming this. He's saying, I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. These soldiers will be specifically designated to stop the flow of fentanyl and illegal migrants into our country. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariff for 1 month, during which we will have negotiations headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives from Mexico. I look forward to participating in those negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries.
President Trump is facing some backlash for seemingly bypassing Congress with his executive actions and orders. House Speaker Mike Johnson applauds the president for taking appropriate action to address the concerns of the American people.
We're excited about everything that President Trump is accomplishing. He's done more in 14 days for the American people than Joe Biden did in 4 years. 300 executive actions, all the priorities that we promised everyone on the campaign trail that we would take care of. He's doing what he said he would do.
Authorities are investigating a deadly plane crash in Pennsylvania from last week. Nate Foy reporting from Philadelphia.
The investigation advances with the discovery of the medical jet's black box found 8 feet underground at the crash site. Tragically, 7 people at least have been killed, with 22 others injured. 5 of them remain in the hospital, 3 of those 5 in critical condition. The NTSB is collecting all this wreckage, and they're bringing it to a facility in Delaware for further analysis. That includes both of the jet's engines. The black box with the cockpit voice recorder will be brought to an NTSB lab in Washington, D.C. And investigators say that will be crucial to understanding pilot communications as the jet crashed less than 1 minute after takeoff.
Officials investigating the deadly plane crash in Washington, D.C. last week gave an update on their findings. D.C. Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly gave an update on the victims identified in the accident.
So far, 55 victims have been positively identified from this aircraft, or from this accident. During our salvage surveys in preparation to lift the aircraft, additional remains were located and removed from the river and taken to the medical examiner's office.
A new task force aims to help veterans.
The Veterans and Military Affairs Task Force is from the American Legislative Exchange Council, where Zachary Federico is manager of the task force.
Our veterans are a population in this country that are largely ignored. This is a group of people that heroically serve our country and raise their right hand to go into the most dangerous parts of the world to protect our freedoms. But these people, after their military service, often return and feel forgotten.
Federico says veterans often struggle to reintegrate, find quality employment, and access their VA benefits. They also carry the scars of war, both physically and mentally.
So here at ALEC, we saw that this was a problem that we could help find solutions for. So we created this task force to support these heroes by bringing together this collection of state legislators and industry experts in this new task force.
Federico hails from a family full of veterans and also serves in the Army National Guard. He says the task force will debate issues and try to find the best solutions for state policymakers. I'm Chris Woodward.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Welcome back, everybody, to the program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano and now Steve Paisley-Jordahl joins us. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
For our new listeners, Paisley's the moniker I gave Steve probably 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because he, as he is today, oft, I said oft, like OFT.
Yeah.
Oft rocks the Paisley.
I'm not sure I've ever heard oft and rocks together.
Well, I know my wife and I had a dog, and someone said,
named
what happened
Oft
to him? And I said, well, he RUNOFT.
He run off because we threw rocks at him.
You spelling around a dog so he doesn't interpret it?
No, it's a joke from a movie.
From the BINGO?
No,
those
that
days?
movie.
BING?
Don't get that stuck in my head. I have a defect in my brain.
Okay.
All I have to do, like what you just said,
yeah,
BINGO song.
Right.
All I have to do is someone suggest it,
right,
and it's in there
all day,
and I'll be humming it. Yeah. I mean, we talked about the tariffs,
right?
And this morning in our story meeting, and one of our meetings this morning,
yeah.
And you started singing the Canadian national anthem, and that was stuck in my head all morning.
Let me help you out there, Ed. Baby shark, shark, shark.
Oh,
no, don't do that to anybody.
That's that you ain't right.
I don't wish that on my worst enemy. The Baby Shark song.
I'm with you, fellas.
By the way, Minnesota is the answer to your question, Ed.
What question?
What team was Ottawa playing when they booed the?
It was a Minnesota Wild.
Yeah,
yeah.
That we're talking about over the weekend. The in Canada at a National Hockey League game, which
in Ottawa,
an American team, the Minnesota Wild. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, the North Stars.
Used to be.
They went to Dallas.
Oh.
Come on, Steve. You're 20 years behind, man.
Oh, man.
You got to keep up with the NHL here.
Yes, I do.
Stay up with Ed.
You're too buried.
You're going to hang with Ed. You better keep up with the NHL. At least,
right.
At least
at least on the surface level.
Yes. So the fans, like 10,000 of them, started booing during the American national anthem because of President Trump's tariffs that he put on them. Is putting on Canada and Mexico. Mexico has announced they're going to. President Trump and the president of Mexico have they're going to be a 1-month suspension on these tariffs, and in that time, I don't know what happens after that, but in the meantime, the president of Mexico has said we'll put 10,000 troops on the border of the U.S. and Mexico to stop illegal immigration into the U.S. and to deal with the drug cartels and the what am I trying to say? The drug cartels and the fentanyl problem. Okay, so that's the idea. Canada has now said Trudeau, who's going to be out in a couple months, by the way, has said that he's encouraging Canadians to boycott American products. And they probably will. I don't know where this is going to go. Who knows?
Well,
it's a great unknown.
The Democrats are speaking into this issue. They want to hit back hard against Donald Trump. Whatever he does, they really want to. This is the best, and this is going to scare every single American. I kid you not. What we're going to hear. This is.
I think we got something funny coming.
This is Chuck Schumer warning about the tariffs coming up. Cut blast. Whatever.
Let's just take Super Bowl Sunday, okay? It's going to affect beer, okay? Most of it, Corona here, comes from Mexico. It's going to affect your guac, because what is guacamole made of? Avocados, both from Mexico.
Yeah, there you go. Watch out, people. Now we're getting a whole block of voters against Donald Trump.
I thought like Corona beer. I'm not a beer drinker, okay? But I thought Corona beer is like bottled in New York or something.
I don't know where it's bottled. It's a Mexican. There's a couple of Mexican brands, but to say that most beer comes from Mexico, no. Coors and Budweiser and all those Miller, all those beers.
Don't we drink? I mean, don't we grow avocados in this country as well?
Yes, we do.
Avocados from Mexico.
Was that a stereotype there?
No, that was a commercial.
Commercial.
Okay. I thought you were speaking in a Mexican accent, English in a Mexican accent. Well, you were.
I was, but
you were doing it. It was a good-natured. So you ask us, Ed, do we not grow avocados here?
Yes.
Quote, meaning in the U.S. And as a connoisseur of
guacamole,
or guac,
yes.
which I love. The tableside guac is one of the reasons I'll go to a Mexican restaurant.
Right.
When they, you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
They make it for you. It's fresh, and guacamoles are the main ingredient. By the way, they're very healthy for you too.
Yeah.
But we do grow them in California. the Central Valley there,
Mhm.
which is like is really the fruit basket of America, so to speak.
Sure.
Fruit and vegetables.
Well, fruit because of California. The
Yeah,
breadbasket
fruit.
if it was in the Midwest.
That's why I changed that. Breadbasket would be more wheat and barley and corn and all those things, which are grown in the American Midwest.
Love me
But
some
in-
barley.
Do you?
I'm sorry.
You and I need to get together and
Yes.
talk barley. 'Cause
Yes.
I love talking barley. I
get
can
some
talk
good barley
for-
recipes.
I can talk barley for hours.
All right, so I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Yeah.
Shame on me. Go ahead.
Okay, so where was I? Oh, yeah, the avocados. We probably do get most of our avocados, we, the United States, from Mexico, I'm guessing. So we do grow our own, some of our own out in California, but that could cause the price of the California avocados to grow up if we're not getting one from Mexico. Listen, I'm no fan of Chuck Schumer. I wish he would retire and go away. Disagree with his politics 99.9% of the time, if not 100. But he may be right. But President Trump didn't deny that there wouldn't be some pain.
Yes, initially.
Yes,
Yeah.
initially.
I do have just a very brief guacamole story.
Please share it.
My wife loves guacamole.
Like me.
Yes. I, for some reason, hated it without trying it. I guess it was just the color. Until 2 years ago, my wife said, please try it. The table side guacamole, they make it fresh.
Yeah.
And I tried it, and I thought, wow, this is good. It was really good.
Right. You get it with everything.
Yeah. It was
Don't hold
really-
back when they say you want everything. You say yes.
Yeah. It was very good.
It was very good.
So I've lived much of my life missing that
Would you talk to
blessing.
a couple of my adult children? They won't try squat. They try rice, potatoes, steak, and hamburger, and that's it.
Well, they're going to wind up being a 66-year-old man who hasn't had guacamole all his life.
And all those decades you missed when you could have had tableside
Or
guac.
real butter on his toast,
That's what
all
I'm
that
talking
kind
about.
of stuff.
Yeah. So
if the worst that Americans can worry about from these things is more expensive guacamole, I don't think they're going to suffer much.
Okay, so you went serious.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Listen, let's just see. President Trump is a smart man.
Yeah.
Okay. And he has thought this out. I'm sure he has thought this out. And let's see what happens. Sometimes things don't go as the way you planned.
Yeah.
All right. So if there begins to be a lot of pain in the U.S. and there begins to be a lot of backlash to the tariffs for some reasons maybe we don't even understand right now.
Right.
We'll see.
The Democrats, you hear Democrats saying, no backsies.
No what?
Backsies.
No taking backsies. Can't take it back.
All
right.
I never heard that term all my life.
Really?
Yeah, I'm almost 62. I've heard onesies.
Yeah. Recently, mostly, huh?
Yeah, but not backsies. Huh?
What about the onesies?
Okay, go ahead,
Bernie
Steve.
Sanders.
What's your
I
over
wanna-
to you, Steve, for story number 2.
The story number 2 is kind of related to story number 1. The Democrats are trying very hard to recover from their disastrous election.
Bless them.
And so there's a lot of people in the party that are saying, you've got to walk back from the woke. You can't be the same Democrat Party that lost to Donald Trump. What about the working man? And they're too radical. And so this is a couple things that happened at they elected a new president.
Yeah, and so they took to heart this advice that they should abandon this woke craziness
and just go with what Americans really want.
Yeah.
And so they decided to vote on whether or not they were going to abandon the woke. And this is how the vote went down. Actually, this is a vote for one of their committees or one of the committees there at the DNC, Cut 8.
Our elected officers are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we have to elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. To ensure our process accounts for male, female, and non-binary candidates, we conferred with our RBC co-chair, our LGBT caucus co-chair, and others to ensure that the process is inclusive and meets the gender balance requirements in our rules.
There you go. They are stepping away from the woke.
That sounds, talk about imbalanced.
Yeah.
That's, how do you say that with a straight face? Because that sounds like a skit.
Yeah.
That sounds like they're mocking the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
When in reality, they're wholeheartedly
really
continuing down the path that led to electoral disaster for them.
Well, one of the candidates that didn't quite make the final cut, David Hogg, by the way, I guess you talk about that?
I think we just mentioned his name.
David Hogg, the survivor from Parkland, who's been radically anti-gun and
radically
anti-police.
everything else.
Radically everything else is one of their vice presidents. But they were having a forum, and the Dr. Quintessa Hathaway was one of the candidates, and I'd like to listen to her pitch to elect me. Go ahead, cut 9.
And we'll begin with the opening statements. Each candidate will have 30 seconds, and we'll start with Dr. Quintessa Hathaway.
Good evening, everyone. It is my desire to be the next DNC chair, and I just want to give you all a little bit of something that's been on my heart here over the last couple of days. You fight on, you fight on, you fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, you fight on, oh, you fight on. We shall overcome.
That's Quintessa.
Quintessa
Hathaway, who is vying to become.
Well, she was. She didn't make it.
Okay.
The election's over.
But so she, in announcing her,
this is
her moment there.
This is her.
She decided to break out in song.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and listen, in her defense, she has a lovely voice.
Yeah, but it's just odd to be making your presentation to be a candidate for something, and you decide just to break out in song.
I agree.
Yeah, it's probably.
I couldn't help but thinking when she said, "You hang on, you hang on, you hang on until you're gone."
I've never heard. By the way,
I've
I've listened to music my whole life, as of y'all. I have never, ever, ever heard the word government used in a song. Have y'all?
What about won't be fooled
I've never heard
again.
government used in the word government ever used in it. How do you even fit that into a song?
In the Schoolhouse Rock video about how to make a bill, the word government is in
Does
there.
anything rhyme with it except for, I guess?
Let's listen to her use of. Let's just put the government in there again. See what word she tries to rhyme with it.
And we'll begin with the opening statements. Each candidate will have 30 seconds, and we'll start with Dr. Quintessa Hathaway.
Good evening, everyone. It is my desire to be the next DNC chair, and I just want to give you all a little bit of something that's been on my heart here over the last couple of days. You fight on, you fight on, you fight on, you fight on. When your government is doing you wrong, you fight on.
Okay, well, she doesn't try to rhyme government.
right
I think she was smart there by avoiding trying to shoehorn a word in to fit that would rhyme with government. But she fight on. But so she wasn't elected. How many people tried out for that job there?
I don't know. I think they were.
Who got it?
Well, a guy named Ken Martin was. He was chosen among 8 candidates.
All right, who's Ken Martin?
Ken
He's,
Martin is
Steve
Minnesota.
Martin's brother.
No. He was the leader of the Democrat Party in Minnesota.
That's
so
funny.
he's
Oh my goodness.
middle of the road there.
I did want to say that I looked up the lyrics to "Won't Get Fooled Again," and government does appear in it.
Really?
There's nothing in the government looks any different to me.
What's
No,
that
I'm
song
just
about?
kidding.
Okay, I didn't. What is that song?
What is that song about? It's the greatest rock and roll scream ever.
So there really is government or not government?
No, I was kidding.
Bring up the lyrics to "I'm Just a Bill." I'm just a bill.
All right, Ken Martin was the gentleman who was selected
Yes.
by the Democrats to be their Democrat. What is he going to be like?
The head of the DNC.
Okay.
So we're going
Well,
to
I
listen to
tell
this
you what.
guy for.
I tell you what I'm staring at is a middle-aged white man. This is really disappointing.
Well, how do you know he's a man?
Well, He looks. I would bet. I would bet 100. I would bet my house that this guy's a dude.
Well, those are the kinds of assumptions, Tim, that have held back trans people in our country. You're assuming gender.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Oh, that guy looks pretty white.
Well, he also looks like a male.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. I mean, growing a beard now. He could grow. He's not growing a beard, but I mean, anyway. So he's the new spokesperson for. Listen, the Democrats are in dire need of somebody to be a spokesperson for them that can articulate a vision for their party, because they're in disarray right now.
Oh,
they're which I'm glad because secular progressivism is horrible.
Yes.
For our country, and I hope they never find their way back to being a majority in this nation, if they ever were. But this gentleman here, Ken Martin, he's from Minnesota, and he's the new DNC chair. So did he sing, by the way?
I don't think
Ken Martin break out in song? Huh?
I'm looking now at an NBC News story. Doesn't say anything about him singing, but he did get 100 more votes than the second place finisher, who is Wisconsin Democratic Party Chair Ben Wickler.
Ben finished second?
Yeah, Ben did.
I was voting for Ben. I was voting for Ben.
Is he gentle?
Gentle Ben. Now, how long is this term? Is it 4 years till the next election, or is
I don't know.
Okay.
That's a good question. I don't know how long
I'm
they
looking to
last.
see.
Let's move on. I'm tired of talking about Ken, about the Democrats choosing a leader. That they need to figure out their own way here, and I don't have much to say to help them out. Don't want to help them out too much. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, Ken Martin's brother, Ed
Martin?
Ed Martin.
What'd Ed do?
No relation to Ken, I don't believe.
You just said he was his brother.
Well, I know, the same last name. But he is now the new U.S. attorney for, interim U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. When Donald Trump was sworn in, he took his office as the federal attorney in Washington, D.C. One of the first things he did was he sent a letter to Chuck Schumer, the man we just heard worrying about beer costing.
All right, excuse me. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt, but I'm confused a little bit. We were talking about Ken Martin.
Yes.
Who's the new Democrat Party chairman.
Yes.
He's from Minnesota. And then you said, who did what? Yeah.
Okay. You wanted to change the topic, so the topic now is this letter from the U.S. District Attorney or U.S. Attorney in D.C. whose name is Ed Martin.
No relation.
No relationship.
Oh, I got you. No relation. Okay, no relation. Okay, got you. So he's Trump. Whoever the president gets to appoint U.S. district attorneys all over the nation. So Trump's doing this himself.
Yeah.
And the fellow he's appointed in Washington, D.C. to be U.S. attorney there has sent a letter to Chuck Schumer.
The Honorable Chuck Schumer.
The Democrat Senate leader, asking him what now?
He says we respectfully request that you clarify comments that you made on March 4th, 2020. It was at a private rally off of the Capitol steps, and this is what you said. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. And that
was pretty good, Steve.
Thank you. Edward Martin thinks that was threatening, and he's investigating it. It's illegal to threaten.
4 years later?
Yeah, well, this is his first chance. He just got there.
Okay.
Now, this is just a letter requesting comment, and I think he's
clarification.
He's going to get zero clarification from Chuck Schumer.
Just so you remember, this was when they had leaked the decision in Roe versus Wade, the Dobbs decision. Remember, they don't know who leaked it, but someone leaked it, and everybody was up in arms. And so the Democrats went to the Supreme Court and knocked on the door of the Supreme Court, and that's when Schumer made his threat.
Clarification would be nice because you want to ask Chuck Schumer, well, what is the wind and the whirlwind that they're going to suffer? But he's not going to answer the letter, I don't think. And what if he's pressed on it, and he probably won't be pressed on it either by members of the press. He'll say, listen, it's First Amendment free speech. I don't have to explain. I didn't break any laws. But
he did apologize for that, by the way.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. I'm talking about
Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer did.
I think it's just this is another one of Trump trying to upset things. He's going like 80 different directions all at once. And no one knows. They can't settle on anything to criticize him about because
he's flooding the zone.
He is flooding the zone.
That's right.
To use a football term.
I think it's going to turn out to be a very smart approach to getting things done in the least amount of time.
We're going to wake up in 3 months and realize that a lot of stuff that got done that we didn't even know got done because no one had a chance to cover it.
You know what he's like? Now, this may be before your time, Steve, although I'm not really that much older than you. I remember watching variety shows growing up where, whoever had it, the variety show, you'd have a singer, you'd have a comedian. I can remember these guys who would come on and they'd have these poles and they'd start spinning plates and they'd start juggling and they'd start doing something else and they'd reach over, keep the plates spinning, and they'd have 4 or 5 things going at the same time until their allotted time finished. And it was amazing to watch. And that's what I thought of with Trump here in his first 2 weeks. He's got all this stuff going on. I have no idea how he's keeping this all going. But the Democratic Party doesn't know which trick to look at. And that may be part of his President Trump's strategy.
Hey, what did Punxsutawney Phil do today? It's Groundhog Day, people.
This is 6 weeks, 6 more weeks of winter.
I think it was this weekend.
You love that, don't you, Tim?
6 more weeks of winter. I don't listen. I'm going charismatic on you right here. I do not receive that. Do not receive that.
I'm
at all.
with you.
Listen,
I want spring.
I don't know what Punxsutawney Phil's drinking, but according to my weather map, we are. When I say we, where we live here, and I'm sure this is probably the case for much of the country. Tomorrow, 74. Wednesday, 74.
It's only February 3rd.
Thursday, 78. These got to be record highs.
Believe in the groundhog. What he's saying is that, enjoy it. Because in 2 weeks, it's going to be freezing again.
I'm sure it'll get winter again, but enjoy this week. Wow. Next Saturday, 82.
82?
Look, I'm not lying. Look, 82.
But the next day, the high is 51.
Yeah, it drops off the table. But, hey,
that's winter in Mississippi.
Mid-70s.
30-degree drop.
Mid-70s
overnight.
all week. It's 82 on Saturday. That's going to have to be a record high, I would think. But anyway, I'm so thankful for global warming. You just don't know every day.
How thankful you are.
Have a great day, everybody. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association.